Good morning, everybody. So great to have you here with the Napa Valley Center for Spiritual Living, where joy is what is coming through us as us. We have a great service for you today. I'm Reverend Jay Lang, and just welcome to everybody who's out there in virtual land, as well as everybody's in the room. I want to give a special introduction to get us started this morning, and it's Bodhi Sechko here.
Here we are. The light of God's wisdom shining within me. Guidance from that place inside is like a beacon on the sea. Advice from the world outside can sometimes lead me astray. Choosing to follow the light of God, I always find my way. In the light of God, in the light of God, in the light of God, there I go. The joy of God's presence is glowing in my soul. The peace of His warmth inside is worth its weight in gold. And fear from the world outside can sometimes confuse my mind. Choosing to feel the joy of God, I'm back on course in time. In the light of God, in the light of God, in the light of God, there I go. In the light of God, there I go. The light of God's wisdom shining within me. Guidance from that place inside is like a beacon on the sea. Advice from the world outside can sometimes lead me astray. Choosing to follow the light of God, I always find my way. In the light of God, in the light of God, in the light of God, there I go. In the light of God, in the light of God, in the light of God, there I go. I can hear you all out there clap. I can feel your energy. It's just the transmission is so powerful. I'm feeling it. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
How wonderful, Bodhi. I feel like we're just tapping into your abilities. You are a multi-talented musician, and we just appreciate all that you could do. Who thought he could whistle so well? That's beautiful. But also mainly just In the Light of God is a beautiful song. Did you write that, or is that by?
Yeah. That's I mostly do all my own songs. Yeah.
That's a gorgeous one.
I know that came from one of those little daily booklets, that you get from I think this was the Unity one that I used to get, the Unity one.
Right,
So
Daily Word.
There was one just called The Light of God, and the opening line was, "The light of God's wisdom is shining within me." And you steal a line, and that's the prompt, and from there the whole song unfolds, right? Because
well, for you maybe. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
It is a cultivated skill.
Yes, I'm sure, and an inspired one. It sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. It's beautiful, and I'm happy to know, and I hope I think you will be too, that Bodhi's going to be a part of once a month. We're going to have him as part of our services, and it's great that he's from Marin County, so he can come here easily and be in person here with us on the fourth Sundays of every month. So you can join us for that to make sure you can become Bodhi fans, right? So Andy's website is posted, so feel free to do that. So today I'm so excited about the topic today, because mindful action is such a powerful thing in these days that we go forward. I know that we are being asked to stay inside and somehow act at the same time, and it's confusing, especially since there's so many things right now around racial and political orientation, civil rights, human rights that we're being called forth to act upon and do something, but sometimes we don't know what to do, and we can be overwhelmed and frozen in not doing anything at all. And I think it's important for us to realize that by going within, in our frozenness and our stopness and our unsureness, is the perfect time to go within and simply ask, what is best in this situation? What is mine to do? And as a community, we ask, what is ours to do? For myself, the Serenity Prayer has continued to be an inspiration for me lately, that God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. At the same time, I hope it's not sacrilegious to change the wording a little bit, but for me, it's become more like, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that drive me crazy and are not for me to do. And grant us the courage and the power to strength to do the things that are ours to do, while keeping us protected from violent people, abusive police officers, and that darn COVID thing. And the wisdom to know how the heck to do that. And I think this is the attitude, this is the surrender that we can do to Spirit, just going, here I am. How can I be of service? How use me in whatever way I'm willing. I am just not sure. And in that humility and that surrender, it allows us to be inspired to move and act in ways that are powerful and to make a difference. Loving unconditionally, living intentionally, and seeing God in all people and all faiths does make a difference. Now, as I've walked through this series on mindfulness, we first of all just started with, at the first of the month, mindful breathing. And that's a perfect way to begin. And then mindful intentions, mindful speech, both in words we say to others, but the words we also say in prayers and affirmation, that we're mindful of that. And finally this week, mindful action. Michael Bernard Beckwith. I love his words. He just brings it down to the essence. He says, when you truly have an insight or spiritual awakening, the next step is always action. And we know that because this is the philosophy we have, that we create these intentions, this inspiration, the consciousness of healing, of joy, of love within us, and it's natural for us to want to express it. It's a natural outflowing of it to do that. And we also know that sometimes when we do action in the world, we either have lost the mindfulness, or we go to sleep for a moment, or we consider it a misstep in what we do. And we always know that is the feedback to our consciousness that we can reorient, reintend, reattend to what we really are seeking to have, and it becomes a closer and closer experience of that which we're seeking in the world, that which we're seeking to do. And sometimes it is an opening of this process of a power and a vibration that is important, that we stretch out beyond our comfort zone to create, that it's a manifestation of our thoughts, of our intentions. Think of it as if you're cooking a meal. So you get all your ingredients together, you are following a recipe or an intention, an idea of what you want it to be, and maybe you change it while you're going along because, a little garlic might be good in here too, and you create it, and you have this food that you have, and you eat it, you serve it to other people, and the process of mindfulness and intention doesn't end once you have finished cooking. It continues while you're eating. The action part of this, that you are taking it in, you're going, this is really good. Next time I might add a little bit more, or next time I might do this, or boy, this is perfect. I'm going to write this down so I do this again. And so it's this process of action, intention, and action, that it continues to be mindful. It's not that we suddenly turn it off now that we're complete, because our action is never complete. It's always a process of allowing a greater expression to come through us as us, that we create more of this manifestation. Maybe it's 11 hours of meditation. Maybe it's 11 hours of prayer. Maybe it's a deeper connection into a study group, or something that we do, that we just dive into our deeper intentions of what we do. What I know is this mindful action that we have is always connected to spirit, always connected. There is no separation. We might forget, we might go unconscious for a moment, and we are still connected. Because spirit doesn't go anywhere. Our mind might be distracted, but spirit is always there. So in that moment of remembering, we reconnect to that. We know there is only one divine being, one people, one heart, and we are all connected. So when we are acting out into the world, whether we are dancing or painting or cooking or marching, remember, you are never alone. Spirit is always there, always expressing through you. And whenever you find yourself in a moment of, what am I doing here? Or some action you've done out in the world didn't turn out the way you thought it might, just reconnect, because spirit is always, always, always there. And also, we seek for our mindful action to be for something, some intention. There are times it's necessary to say no. We're not really against something as much as just saying, no, this is not acceptable behavior. Racism is not acceptable. Discrimination is not. Leaving children in cages is not okay. This is not okay. Always follow that no, though, with the yes. This is not okay, and I am marching, I am speaking, I am acting, I am painting this in honor of children and freedom, of a world that works for everyone, of equality and equity, that I stand for this now. And so we take this stand that is for something, no matter what that expression is. And we also know that as we step into the world, there may be perceived obstacles or barriers that may be all inside of us. I find that whenever I find a barrier on the outside, it corresponds with a barrier on the inside. And that's the beauty of this mindfulness, is that which we're stepping through, we're also aware of any beliefs that we might have within ourselves, any thoughts of unworthiness, or thinking we're not able to do something, powerlessness, that we don't know how to do something. And we know that Spirit continues to illuminate in us the truth of who we are. And also the power of our intentions moves through any obstacles there are. And an obstacle becomes seemingly insurmountable. We just go deeper. insurmountable objects just go deeper. And we go deeper into the spirit, into our own beliefs. We know that mindful action is always supported by spirit, that there's a natural order happening, that spirit through each person seeks a full expression, a full equality, a full connection, and empowerment, that no one is designed in the natural order to be suppressed or oppressed. So we know when we are marching or speaking or connecting with that which is empowering others, freeing people, it is of the divine order. It doesn't mean there won't be resistance in the world. Some people hold on to their power, their beliefs, and that's okay, because we can bless them right where they are, and we continue to know the truth. The truth of spirit is one of freedom, one of equality, where every person has the opportunity to fully express themselves, fully act, that nothing stands in their way. So we continue to hold this truth that is there. And we know that whenever we are mindfully acting, there might be what appears as a misstep, a mistake, and yet there are no missteps. There are just opportunities to learn from that. And we continue when we feel like we are out of alignment. Just go back to our intention to begin with, our vision. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, says, work without vision is drudgery, but vision without work is self-deception. The well-balanced person can walk with their head in the clouds and still keep their feet solidly planted on the ground. Faith and work are ineffective when separated. So it is faith and work we do hand in hand together. These past week and really this month, I have been thinking about mindful action, about mindfulness as a whole. And these so many people that I have been reading about have done so much in their lives. That's quite amazing. In my email this week, I don't know if you saw it, but I talked about Bayard Rustin, who was a gay black man born in 1912. So when you're gay and you're black in 1912, there's a lot that's not working for you. And he grew up in Quaker communities and learned about peaceful action, about nonviolence, and about Mahatma Gandhi and what he did. So in the 1950s, when he began to work with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as an organizer, he taught Dr. King about nonviolence. So he was the one who was really responsible for Dr. King's method of nonviolence. In 1956, Rustin helped develop and organize the boycott of segregated buses in Montgomery, Alabama. In 1963, he was the primary organizer of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, at which King delivered his legendary speech, "I Have a Dream." So that was the work for him to do. Now, he was still oppressed as a gay man. And so when his work began to, the civil rights movement took action on his own, or whatever reason, he thought it was time to start working in different areas. It was in in the latter in his life that he began to work for equality for LGBTQ plus people. And he chose the right work when he felt it was the right time. And part of that, it was the right time because in the late 60s, there were two trans women of color, Sylvia Rivera and Marsha Johnson, who had enough of the oppression of LGBT community. They led the Stonewall riots in Greenwich Village, and which began the whole gay liberation and LGBTQ rights. And it's also because it was in June of 1969 is the reason why June is Pride Month. And as I mentioned, we'd had several ways we celebrated it in Napa and across this nation, across the world. And what's wonderful also is the Supreme Court last week reaffirmed the LGBTQ rights in the workplace. And so it's wonderful that this work is still continuing. I also love the story of Catherine Switzer, who in 1967, she was a 20-year-old runner, a long distance runner, and she wanted to be in the Boston Marathon, but it was unheard of for women to be in the Boston Marathon because women didn't have the stamina or the ability to run it. So she registered not identifying her gender and ran it anyway. And the race director literally pushed her, tried to push her out of the way, and her boyfriend at the time pushed the director out of the way. But he's followed her, and for a moment she was just going to pull over and quit. She goes, wait a minute, I deserve to be here. I trained as hard as anybody. So although the race director still chased her, she just outran him. And she went on to run in dozens of marathons and inspire hundreds of millions of female runners, from the neighborhood runners to other marathoners. And it's because she was willing to choose that which was hers to do and stick with it, not give up. I also last week was talking about Dolores Huerta, who was an organizer of the labor movement, who, much to her counterpart, Cesar Chavez, broadened her focus on the rights of women in the fields and beyond. She broadened the women's movement to be more than just for white women. The voice of women of color needed to be at the front of all of the labor rights movement, she thought, as well as civil rights, women's reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, the environment. Her work now, I mean, she's still going strong. She's about reducing harmful pesticides, not only because of the products we eat, but also and mainly for her because of the people that work in the fields and the children who go to schools that near the fields where pesticides are used that are very harmful. She was part of the first Women's March on Washington in 2017. So she continues to work this. And that work is continuing too for Latinx. The Supreme Court ruling 2 weeks ago about DACA, reaffirming that. I know that work is continuing, and I support the work that we're doing in all ways. I also wanted to talk about Amisha Harding, who lives in Atlanta. This is a more current thing. Just a few weeks ago, she went to marches in Atlanta, and there were people yelling at each other, all different sides, not just two sides. There were like four sides of people yelling at different, all disagreement. There was violence, frustration, and no one was being heard. So she went home with her cousin and just sat down, and she goes, there's got to be a way for everyone to have their say without shouting, without violence, a way to de-escalate the tension. So she went out and literally stood on the front lines, talking to the protesters, talking to the police and going, hey, I'm Amisha. I'm a friendly protester. And she talked directly to the front line of the police saying, hey, how y'all feeling today? How are your families feeling about you being out here today, expressing empathy? What do you think is going on in the world? And she, at first, they were still defensive, but she began dialogues with the police, and they became her friends and allies, and it opened up a place for dialogue. And then what she did is she put these signs out, 4x8 signs that had different thoughts about the people. Each day there was a new one put out with a different prompt. Things like, we want our government to know, we want to live in a country where we're the change to commit to, different ideas, and people of all political, social, economic differences all posted on this. And there was a wide variety, but her intention, remember what her intention was, not to change anybody's mind. Her intention was to allow a place for people to speak their mind in a way that was heard, because really these protests are about feeling unheard. And as she said, she tripped, was an accidental activist. She fell into this opportunity, and yet it was her intention to do that. And she continued, and we all continue to ask ourselves, what is ours to do? So I'm going to invite Kristen up here, because I just wanted to kind of talk with her about what is ours to do. She was out. I'm just going to show some pictures of her while she's getting up here. So last night there was the car parade, and you probably have more. Look on her Facebook page, but there was some she was part of that parade that happened and was, and guess where I was? I was at home. I didn't participate. Does that make me wrong that I wasn't doing it? No, it just wasn't mine to do. And I think that's important for us to know that there are many things to do, but we check in with what is ours to do.
Absolutely.
You have any thoughts about that? Oh, you got your plugged in your ears.
I could hear myself from myself. I think it's all about figuring out what is yours to do and then being willing to do that. And I think it's all of ours to pray and to meditate and to do our spiritual practice and to do our inner work. But then there's always something that we can be doing out into the world that's also ours to do. And so maybe it's not protesting, maybe it's not dressing up and driving up and down Jefferson. Although there were a lot of us and it was really, really fun. It was more fun than we were expecting it to be. But just figuring out what it is. Maybe it is making meals. Maybe it's taking care of the children. Maybe it's calling your politicians and your legislator. Maybe it's, supporting people with spiritual guidance or with emotional support. Maybe it's reading books. Maybe it's, although it's probably more than just reading books, but there's always something that we can be doing.
Right. And using our strengths and talents that we have, like who we are.
Absolutely. Baking bread. A lot of people are baking bread. My friend Lydia Joy just gave a talk on sourdough and white supremacy. So you can
I'm gonna have to listen to that one. That sounds good.
And social distancing. I think it was, yeah. You can take what your gifts are. Your gifts are what are needed out in the world. Absolutely.
So how do you determine, there's a lot of things to do. And how do you decide which is yours to do?
He didn't prep me with these questions, y'all. Just FYI. I would say I follow my heart and I follow my emotions. So if something is really activating me or upsetting me, I know that there's work for me to do in that. Especially when I look out into the world and see, we want to stay as spiritual people. We want to stay in the feeling good. And Abraham talks about feeling good. But the reality is that there are things going on that upset us and that hurt our hearts. And so for myself, what I do is I follow, where is my heart hurting? Like, where am I really feeling out that something's going on there? And then I look at what are my gifts and what can I bring to this to be bigger and show up and really be that change that the things that I no longer wish to see.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And seeking to be that which we're wanting to create in the world, to be a loving presence through empathy and connecting in some way.
Right.
And that means even in discomfort.
Yeah. And always seeking to find the balance of, showing up and doing the work, but also always staying from spiritual principles. So always showing up and understanding that every single person I meet, every single person that I'm speaking up with or for, or that I'm lifting them up as an absolute equal divine person that's all of God showing up, just like I'm all of God showing up.
But I think of Joey's story about how she just was present and there was an opportunity there to connect with someone, and she didn't know what impact she was going to have, and we never do. But if we're busy thinking about when we get home, I need to do this, or boy, I wish I would have done this in the past, then that's not going to be available to us to serve in the moment. So that's another thing about the here and now, what is calling us right here and right now that's important to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I do have this flag. This is our new pride flag that a lot of people haven't seen because
I love our new pride
flag. Because nobody's been here hardly. So I just want to this way.
Yep.
All right.
And we're not going to light it on fire.
We're not going to light it on fire. This is not. There's other. No, I won't.
We aren't.
I won't. I'm not going to talk about flag burning today.
No, we don't want to burn this one. All right, so this is the one of the, I know you can't see me. You got to scoot over more that way. Can
What?
you see
This way?
Can you see both of us and
Okay.
everything now? Okay. So this is the one of the newer intersectional pride flags, and I'm super excited about this. It was created in 2018, I apologize, by Daniel Quasar, who is a digital graphics artist. And so you will probably recognize the original pride flag here, the original altered pride flag, because it used to have pink down there. But this is the original kind of great gay pride that we all know and love. And then over here, he created this chevron. And it started in 2017 with the Philadelphia pride flag. They added the brown and black stripes on top.
I saw that last year.
Yeah, so that was 2017 Philadelphia's pride flag. But what he wanted to do was he wanted to incorporate the trans flag, which is right here. The traditional trans flag is blue, pink, white, pink, blue. And the white is for non-binary. So for anybody who thinks that non-binary isn't in there, it is. And then the black and brown, of course, is the intersectionality, specifically understanding that our BIPOC, Black, Indigenous people of color, have unique challenges and oppression that they're facing. And what's really cool is he has the chevron pointing this way because of the forward motion, and that we're always moving forward, and we're always growing, and we're always becoming more embracing and more inclusive and more intersectional. So
wonderful.
I love this flag.
I do too. Well, thank you. Thank you. So although June will end, our support and being allies of Black, Indigenous, people of color, orientations, LGBTQ plus, all of that, because we're all one people, continues.
Right. Well, it won't end it. It will end our ongoing weekly discussions of it. But we are always allies.
We're always allies.
And always doing our work. Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Always figuring out what is mine
all
to
right,
do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I think to just wrap things up today, I just think it's important for us just to take that time to go within before we act, but also while we're acting out in the world, to recenter on who we are and how we're showing up in the world. Because that which we do does make a difference. Mindful action in the world. The world needs, we can't do everything that the world needs, but the world needs all that we can do. So let's just go to prayer in this moment. As we center ourselves on that which we know is all there is, which is Spirit. We know that it is Spirit through us that creates powerful, conscious, mindful action in the world. And we can just allow Spirit to be that messenger, that action, that movement in our body, in our mind, in our tongues that we speak, the hands that move. We know the truth of who we are in all aspects of our lives, our Spirit itself. We also take into this prayer those who have a prayer request in this moment, whether it has been sent to us or not. If you have a prayer request, just hold it in your heart right now for yourself, for others, for healing, for deeper connection, for abundance, whatever it is you hold for yourself, you hold for others. Just know it is heard and Spirit is acting upon that in this moment. And we just bless you right where you are and bless all those whom we pray for, knowing that all is good and that wonderful things are happening through us at all times. And so it is.